I'm breaking down the different systems that made buying 4 properties in 14 months possible. Welcome to Glowing Together. The property that you select is probably the most important part of the whole journey. It's going to be the make and break of everything. And so it's incredibly important to make sure that you're choosing the correct property. We weren't chasing dream homes, we were building a foundation. When you're first starting out, the property doesn't have to be $1 million. I think the first property that I bought was under $200,000, probably less than that, a good portion less than that. Okay. And it's a duplex. Like I said, it's in Macon. Obviously, it's not the same market as Atlanta, and it's not going to have, the same potential cash flow. But I'm going to be getting great equity, and I am seeing a significant amount of cash flow for the price of the property and the rental amount of the area. Your first property doesn't need to impress. It just needs to get you in the door. There are so many different strategies that you can use with these properties. So if it's your first time buying a house, which it was mine at that time, so I used the FHA loan. And then down the line, you're able to reuse that FHA loan for a different property after a year. And if you decide to refinance, you can then keep that strategy going. You're going to be required to do inspections, but when that inspection report comes back, believe it. If I didn't believe that inspection report, my first property actually would have been something that was over $400,000 and would have put me in a terrible position versus the property I ended up with. I was one of 8 people who bid on that house, or who put an offer in on that house, and they selected me. But then when we went through the inspection, we saw that basically the tree roots were messing up the foundation of the home, and it was going to eventually become a huge issue. It hurt me so bad, but I had to walk away. I prayed about it, and I was like, if this is for me, let it be for me. And it wasn't for me. And it ended up being for the best, because I ended up with a property that was a lot less money and way better cash flow. And I actually walked into over $25,000 of equity. So it was a win-win. You don't want to just jump the gun because you love the house. There will be another house. There will be another deal. And the deal that you wait for, that you do true research for, and that you follow the numbers for is going to be the one that ends up bringing you the most success and brings you the most peace of mind at the end of the day. When we made that decision, we chose scalability over aesthetics. And that is what saved me in the long run. For the first property, we chose a duplex for the cash flow and the equity that we were going to see in the deal. Second property, we chose because of location and, once again, the deal. And these third and fourth properties that we have just closed on, we chose because location, again, we're right near the Beltline. The 2 townhouses are literally attached to each other. So that is something really unique that we're able to market, and they're new construction. And the World Cup will be coming to Atlanta in 2026. Those are big reasons why we chose those properties. We're able to scale this business somewhere nearby us that we're able to get to quickly. Especially being newer investors, we wanted each of our properties to be accessible. Another thing you need to consider with your property selection is risk management. This is going to be crucial. So to give you guys some background, I actually work as an actuarial analyst, and risk management is quite literally how you would describe our job. I help mitigate financial risk for insurance companies. And doing that, it's given me a great background to be able to mitigate risk in this aspect as well. I run the numbers beforehand, having as much detail as possible so that we can see what it is that we're risking with making these deals. This is, once again, I don't know how many times I can tell you this. Run the numbers. Trust the numbers. Do not play with the numbers. The numbers do not lie. This is going to be your biggest piece of risk management. If you enter into a deal blind without ever seeing a single projection, you are just a bold son of a gun. You have so much courage. I would love to just understand how your brain works, because me personally, I don't work like that. And I don't think most successful people work like that. But if you can do it, hats off to you. But for the average person, please do not do that. You need to understand what your potential losses are. And If you're not capable of doing that, then please find somebody that is. The last thing I'm going to touch on for this section is your location strategy. Like I mentioned, we have 3 properties in Atlanta and 1 in Macon. Those were picked strategically. It wasn't just something that we just tossed up in the air and was like, oh, maybe. No, strategic. So I have done a lot of research. I listened to a lot of different podcasts, and I was able to determine basically some of the best markets in the Sun Belt region. And Georgia happens to be one of them. That's where we live. And as newer investors, we wanted to be closer to the properties. So, i.e., Macon and Atlanta. And we chose each one of those for different reasons. Why you're choosing a location is going to be a big portion of whether or not you end up being successful in real estate at all. After the second property, the process started to feel familiar, and that's where momentum built. There are 4 execution steps that tend to reoccur during the real estate process. The first one is closing. Closing is always going to happen with the real estate transaction because that's how you obtain the property. So going to closing day now, it feels like, we've been there before. It's exciting. The first time ever, though, it was a little nerve-wracking, and it was new to us. Well, it was new to me. It was new to me, and I wasn't really sure what to expect when going in there. Now I know what to expect. I know what's going on. I know what to look for. And to be honest, during the closing day, you really don't have to think about much. You either sign the papers or you don't. You either get the house or you don't. So there's not too much that goes into it on the actual day of, but it's a very exciting day that you get to be a part of. The day you get to go home and know that you did it. You've taken the first step. The second execution step is repetition. Repetition creates confidence. Once you've gotten to property number 3 and 4, you start to see how the things that you guys do, or the things that your teams do, or the things that you do to get to that point can be put into, let's call it, a system. So you don't have to think too much in the future. Systems remove decision fatigue. If you're able to create systems and processes that you follow and that the people who work with you follow, it makes things easier, simpler, and more clean. This is something that kind of happens almost any time you learn something new. And it is why you need to make sure that you put things in place so that once you learn it once, you're not having to repeatedly learn it. So that leads me into execution step number 3, documentation. You need to document everything. In order to be able to repeat your steps, you need to know what you've done already. Documenting things such as your projections, the numbers that you ran beforehand. You want to be able to look back at those so that you can see what led you to certain decisions, and so that you can show them to business partners and garner support. We want to document things like our loan agreement. We want to see the loan estimate. We want to keep all real estate documents that you are given during the purchasing process. You need to keep those. As far as after the purchasing process, we want to make sure that we have rental documents on hand. We want to make sure we have business organization documents, the different bills that need to be paid, the different taxes that need to be paid. We want to have everything in one location, and ideally a location that's shareable for you and the rest of your team. So for us, we use Google Docs. It's super simple. We're able to all go on there and edit things as needed, and it makes it a lot easier to share information. Granted, we do all live in the same house, but having these different pieces of information in one central location allows us to not have to bother the others if it's not necessary, and allows us to be able to access what we need when we need it. And the last execution step is team trust. You have to be able to trust the people that you're working with, because this is a big, big step. This is why I recommend working with your family in general. I mean, if you can't trust your family, who can you trust?
If you can't go to bed and no chase, what the hell would you go?
At least that's how I feel. Like, have that level of trust with your family. I highly suggest that you try to go into business with them. That would be the easiest way to enter into partnership that you can trust. Now, if you don't have family members that are able to invest and or that you trust, still try to find other individuals who are like-minded, build relationships with them, build a rapport, and just have conversations with them at first. You don't always want to just, start out with, hey, like, let's invest together. Like, I don't even know you.
You for the free. I don't even know you.
Please.
No.
I don't even know you. So build relationships. educate yourself, get prepared, right? This is the whole thing that we're talking about, guys. Education to ownership. We need to start with the education piece. And with educating yourself comes networking and building relationships with others. And while you do that, you will then be able to have natural connections that could then potentially lead to partnerships down the line, especially if they see how dedicated you are. Now, there will be times where people might not want to invest with you until they've seen that you have skin in the game and that you can actually prove what you're saying. So that may mean that on the first couple properties, you may have to, figure out how to do that on your own. But overall, make sure whoever you work with, you trust them, because buying a house is a lot of money. I know that everybody knows about the down payment, but what surprised me the most were those closing costs. They're almost the same, especially if you're doing an FHA loan, they're almost the same amount. So it's a lot of money. We're talking about at least $10,000 to $20,000 at least. Like, that's like on probably a house that's like 150,000 and below, maybe 10 to 20,000 just to get into the investment. So it's a good chunk of change. If you're serious about ownership, start with education. And if you're serious about education, subscribe to Glowing Together.